So thank you for signing in with us this evening. We know that the only thing that is more precious than your time is actually you. So thank you for taking the time to show up for yourself tonight. And thank you to our panel members who, after a long day of work in school, are squeezing us in and making the time to share about this with other people. So we really appreciate you being so generous with your time and sharing that with us.
I want to take just a minute before we introduce our panel members to share a little bit about both Dana and I. Dana just introduced, started this webinar off. That's Dana Januska, and I'm Sarah Fillion. We run Positive School Solutions, and we created the Lesson Plan for Life. And the reason why we created the Lesson Plan for Life is that we had been going into lots of schools, talking to lots of leaders, and hearing again and again the same challenge, which is that my teachers are so overwhelmed and I don't know what to give them for self-care, and they don't want to hear self-care. If I say self-care one more time, they're going to throat punch me. And so we were really looking at that and we were thinking, what is it that teachers need? And what we developed was a 6-week experience, which you'll hear a lot more about. And we designed it as former educators. We designed it for educators so that we could make sure that it is something that is really doable. And I said former educators, we're just no longer in our own classroom or in our own school. We get to visit lots of schools, so we still are educators. And so tonight you're going to hear all about what it does for individuals who have gone through it. And hopefully you'll see yourself in some capacity with our panel members who have a variety of roles. And you'll get a chance to hear and answer any questions. If you do have a question, you can feel free to put it into the Q&A as we're going along, and we'll make sure that we embed that question in and that we ask our panelists to share. But the goal really for tonight is just that you can hear a little bit about what is the Lesson Plan for Life and hear from those who have actually gone through it. So without further ado, we're going to kick it over to our panel members to introduce themselves. And I'm going to start with Nicole Donor.
Hi, I'm Nicole Donor. I am currently an educational director in an independent therapeutic day school.
And let's kick it over to Megan.
Hi, I'm Megan, and I am a special education teacher. I have 2nd through 5th grade this year in resource setting, and mainly social skills.
Thank you. Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I am currently a division head in an independent school. I get to hang out with very young learners, ages 2 through 5, and the adults.
And Suzanne.
My name is Suzanne Wright. I am in Bradenton, Florida at a charter school, and I teach 3rd grade.
All right, so our
places and types of roles represented.
Absolutely. Dana, did you want to kick off the first question? I can't remember who we decided was going to kick off the first question.
That's fine. I can do it.
Okay.
So our first question is just about really what helped you to feel like you were ready to take this jump into the Lesson Plan for Life. So what did you feel like before you joined in, and how did you feel after the experience was over?
I'll go first. I joined in at kind of a really big transition professionally for me. I had been in the classroom and an educational consultant for many years, I don't know, 20, 25. And I had spent a couple of years coaching parents and individuals with big transitions in life. And I actually fell into this leadership role, my current position at my old school last year, right around the winter holidays. And I found myself immediately by the end of January back into some really, I don't want to say bad habits, but sort of predictable habits that I know myself that I fall into when I'm stressed. And I knew it wasn't sustainable, but I didn't have kind of the internal, I don't know, self-control, determination, perseverance to stick with it. Like I knew if I stayed in this habit, it was going to get bad fast. And I don't know, Sarah and I were talking and I was like, you know what? I know this. I know a lot of the stuff you're saying as a coach, but I don't listen to myself. And it just was a really great way to remind myself of some good habits and to think differently about a few things, and not get so bogged down by all the work in a really big transition and very hectic professional time.
And do you think you achieved that goal by the end of your experience?
I did. And what was interesting is I was able to coax a couple of the teachers who work with me to do the same thing. And those are both very seasoned, busy teachers. And at first, and we're required by the state in early childhood to do some PD hours. And at first, one of them was like, oh, good, I'll knock out my hours. And I was like, this is not really about knocking out the hours of PD. But it was good. And we all did it at different paces. It was great to be able to talk about it. And I feel like that little bit of collaboration with other people / peer pressure, like there were days that like I hadn't caught up, that I was like, oh wait, they're ahead of me, like I need to get back in this because I really feel good when I start my mornings with this, or I wrapped up at the end of the day. And it just was a good kind of bookmark to the beginning and end of the day.
Jump in. I was asked to do this by a friend and join in, and so I did that. And interestingly enough, Lisa, I was in a similar place. I'd been in a really hard space professionally. I work with students who are all outplaced from their sending schools. They all have therapeutic needs. Every student has experienced trauma, and there's a lot of attachment that goes on. And as educators, we know that the hardest thing to do is to separate ourselves from our students, especially when we see struggling students and families. And it really took a toll on me last year. And like you, I had been backsliding into some pretty harmful habits, just things, not taking care of myself, not sleeping, working until all hours. And so I joined. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll join. Like, whatever, fine, let's do it. And as I started moving through it, I was actually kind of taken aback by how impactful each module was, and like it built upon it itself, and that I would find myself kind of catching myself throughout the day being like, remember to be positive, remember to find the positive piece of this, remember to have gratitude, and just little things that really took me back in terms of just my natural personality, because that's not how I generally think. So I think that was a really big piece for me, just seeing it creep in, because of the daily, like, don't forget this is your task today, do the task, reflect on the task. And it's very purposeful throughout each module and each day that it gets you into the habit of training your brain to think differently. So I think that was a big piece for me.
I can go. I was presented it from my principal. I have a hard time saying no to her. So I said yes, that I would do it. We had a really tough year as far as our special education team. We lost a teacher in January, trying to recoup that. We had off-site case managers, which, if you know anything about special education, having someone who's not in the school with the student is not always beneficial, and you're ending up writing the reports anyway. So bogged down by some of that paperwork aspect. And I was like, okay, well, one more thing to my plate, do it. But she's like, I see how you are. I want you to try this. A couple of the other educators in my school tried it and worked with me too as we were going through, so we kind of could play off of each other. It was really nice to I could do it at my own pace. I didn't have to sit there and set up and have a timeline that I had to do something, along with all the other things of my day. And kind of by the end, more of the gratitude stuff kind of came about, and I kind of started writing. I like to do it anyway, but I wrote like purposeful thank you notes to like my team, or to the principal, or to a student who was doing something. And it just, that personal aspect really kind of helped make those connections with the kids and the staff as well. So that, yeah, you say thank you, but taking the time out of your day to write that really helped.
Right. So the next question that we have, thank you for that. I think that like I was just thinking, and I was like, well, if we get Suzanne to answer this one, then we don't really need to ask any other questions. I feel like we've heard like you all did such a great job. Thank you for that. Our next question, though, that has come in is just, what if I already feel like I have 0 minutes to spare? So we've heard this a number of times of like, this sounds really good, but I don't feel like I have any time at all to fit this in. And so all of you just hearing already what your busy lives, just your school lives alone are like, we can hear how crunched for time you all are. So how did you make time? And or what did you like, what would you say if somebody was like, I don't feel like I have the time, like I have 0 minutes left in my day right now?
I'll just jump in because this was one of the things that I actually was able to lean into my experience from coaching. I just habit stack this. Like I, for years, get up in the morning very early and I have my coffee and I read. And one of my bad habits that I fall into is like, I'm just doom scrolling at 5 o'clock in the morning, which is not a great way to start your day. So I gave myself like 2 minutes for that. I read a couple other little bits of things, and I just did it in the morning instead of social media or other like reading I would do like with a book or something online. And then in the evening, kind of the same thing. I just made it, it was very quick. I think that's the other thing for me. I felt like, especially the reflection was literally like 2 or 3 minutes. For me in the evening, maybe I was skimping on it, but I felt like that would like gave me what I needed. And I just doubled up with what I would normally do reading early in the morning. I think there were a few times that I did listen to stuff in the car. Like once I figured out that like you can also just hit that and go like you would with a podcast. It was really simple to integrate that into a busy day.
I would say I did mine at night. I felt like I just had more of that aspect, but I feel like doing that last spring when I felt overwhelmed and coming into this school year, we've got 4 new staff members in SLP and 3 new special ed teachers on our team. I mentor one of the other teachers, 2 of which are going to school to now be special educators. So they're not actually qualified to teach. So I take on a lot of those aspects. And you would think I would feel more overwhelmed this year than I did last year. But I think putting the other things into practice, I can like kind of compartmentalize as the day goes on. I have 25-ish kids on my caseload with my co-teacher that I take on. And so I have a meeting almost every day, but I was telling my principal how I feel less overwhelmed this year because I can get my paperwork done and feel like I can just leave that at school just by utilizing some of those practices.
Awesome. Anyone else have any advice to share?
I'll jump in because my time management is atrocious. I always think that I'm really good. And then I'm like, I've been sitting here like watching TV for 3 hours and I've gotten through 4 episodes of whatever. And, you know, I think like you, Megan, you know, there's so much to it, right? So just a quick background and then I'll launch is I am a full-time educational director. I am also a student who is getting my endorsement in special ed, and I'm taking classes for that. And on top of that, I'm also in my internship. So, and then like I'm supposed to just live my life and do all the other things. And so I felt I put some pressure on myself because I felt like I didn't want to let my friend down who was like, would you please like join this, right? Would you do this? And I didn't want to let that person down. And then I realized that the beauty of this is that I'm not on anybody's timetable. And I think that was a really important piece for me. You know, in a lot of classes, it's read this by then, watch this by then, do this by then. And, you know, in full transparency, like I'm wrapping up right now. So it has taken me, you know, I stepped away and then I came back to it. And it's interesting because I feel like I always come back to it at just the right time. And I'm always on just the right module. It's just weird how it works out. And I think that's a really important piece, is that this is designed to let you go at your own pace and at a time frame that works for you. And so if I needed to step away because I was doing 85 things, I could step away a week, 2 weeks, and it didn't mean that I lost anything that I had gained. It was just like a pause in continuing the journey forward. So I think that was an important piece for me in being able to have autonomy over that.
I think we're seeing that from a bunch of people who maybe take one module and then move on and then come back to where they were before and then go back ahead and then come back to it again as they're trying to put things into practice. I know that Megan had shared one of the practices that really stood out to her about writing a note to people. Are there any other practices that you picked up along the way that really stuck out to you? To any of you?
Excuse me. So when I started this journey, I had just moved to a new school, changed grades. Both my kids were gone from home, empty nesting, and lots of changes, just kind of like everybody else, it sounds like. So for me, I thought, oh my gosh, I have all this time. Yay. No, you don't. But at the same time, what I realized was that some of the things that I was already doing would fit certain modules or certain categories, like finding joy or starting positive or taking time to be thankful or grateful. And so I really enjoyed just noticing that the different things I was already doing were there. I just needed to sometimes name them and say, like, hey, that walk from your classroom to the car is when you think about 2 good things that happened today and 1 thing you're going to work on tomorrow. And that's my moment of gratitude. And that is also my, like, kind of downloading the day so I can leave it at school and then go get in the car and go home. So.
Anyone else have a favorite practice?
I think the aligning my values, was that module 2, I think. I just grabbed my book and was looking through, but I think that was really powerful to really, because it really made me think, like, what is important and what am I not doing that I should be doing, right? What are the values that I have, and are they represented or are they underrepresented in the way that I'm living my life, and what I'm giving my energy to, you know, in terms of work and whatever. Like, I literally last night, we have 2 emails for work. I just pulled one of my emails off my phone and I was like, nope, I'm not doing that anymore. So I pulled one of my emails because I value my time and I value boundaries, and that was underrepresented. So I made a change to make sure that those two, that aligned. So I think that really explicitly naming and seeing your values is a huge piece.
I implemented a lot of it into the kids stuff that I do now too. So like I have behavior point sheets and different things, and they get access to breaks, and they're not usually contingent on anything. They don't have to earn points to get them, but as part of it, they have to tell me 2 positives that happened prior to the break that they're doing, because I have kids that either feel that they're bad kids or that they can't do something, or they've had a bad moment, so that makes the whole day bad. And so just taking that time too for them to think of 2 things has really helped them kind of go, oh, not everything is bad. Bad moments don't make bad days.
Love that line.
Love that. I love that. All right. So another question that we have seen a whole bunch is, what exactly happens during, like, we're told that this is 6 weeks, like, what happens? And so I know we've heard little tiny bits and pieces about it, but I'm wondering if we could just have someone kind of like tell us from your perspective, like, what's the heart of it? Like, what is it that you do both on a daily and or a weekly basis? Because I know people went through the process a little bit different, through the experience a little bit different.
Can I cheat and grab my book?
Yeah.
Just did the same thing before. I was like, I need that book. I need a visual.
I was like,
Yep.
wait a minute, I have to go
Yep.
back. Again, because it's things I'm already doing, but I just had to name some of them to put them into a flow that made sense. That was the part. Like, honestly, I was probably like half a module in going, what is different about this? But what Nicole mentioned about aligning your practices with your values, that was a big part of it. So each week there's a little video from Sarah talking about whatever the topic is. And then you do some work about whatever the topic. So like the idea of your values, what's the most important things to you? It's kind of important, but it's not as important as others. Ranking those, finalizing kind of what are the most important things about you. And so I like my 4 little values are here, 4 big values. And then I took the chance to take my self-care practices and the value that it supported and kind of line those up. At that point, I was like, oh, that's why I feel like I have a bad day when I don't do this. And why it's important for me to say, I am going to exercise, not just because I feel guilty, but because my health is important and I'm almost 50 and I would like to live a lot longer. And so aligning that up with my value of being healthy as long as I can, that's why I justify going to exercise class, and why if I can just put the clothes in the car, I will get there. So from all of that, moving from those values to the things that you're actually doing, and then eventually you build kind of a schedule for yourself of these are what my days look like. I actually have the Monday through Friday schedule and the Saturday, Sunday schedule, because those are definitely different with work and everything. Identifying the have-tos, like I tell my students all the time, this is what you have to do. And then here are the choices when you get done with your have-tos, but this is a non-negotiable. I have to go to work. I have to eat. I have to do some physical self-care, like getting dressed in the morning. But then where are the places in between those that I could fit in times to be grateful, times to show gratitude, times to be focused on one of my specific values. Those are the pieces that I felt like this program helped me put them together in a way that made sense.
One of the things that Sarah and I worked really hard to make sure we were accomplishing throughout this was we kept saying we want to make sure people can do this in less than 10 minutes a day. So if you're thinking about that, like not the initial module piece where you're doing the learning once a week, but do you feel like throughout the course of the day you were able to accomplish these goals within 10 minutes?
Yeah, I think because I think Suzanne, as you were talking, I was just thinking about you know, and I think, Sarah, this was your original question was, you know, like in a nutshell, like what would be like our elevator speech, right? What is this? And I think this really is a journey of discovery. I think that this is meant to, it is a very gentle yet intentional, I was going to say forceful way, but like that wouldn't, like it is a very like structured way to take time for you to really figure out who you are and how you want to live and exist in your own space, whether it's school, business, home, family, whatever. And I think that it's there's an intentionality behind doing this. And I think that the work comes in, like I would do it on a Sunday night. And then Dana, to answer your question, you know, the practices come, does it take 10 minutes? I don't even think it takes 10 minutes, right? I think, you know, you're doing something and it's happening with fluidity throughout your day because you're looking to what is my value around exercise? What is my gratitude? You know, how can I show appreciation like Megan was talking about? So I think there's an intentionality of self-discovery and bringing more joy and purpose into your world and how you want to live. So it's really about intentionality.
I agree with both of those pieces from both Suzanne and Nicole. I think the other big takeaway for me, and it was interesting to go from several years of working for myself and having a lot of control over my schedule to then slam into a school schedule where like there's not a lot of time. And you know, as an administrator, I was like, oh yes, I can go to the bathroom almost anytime I want. Like I had some flexibility, but still like I found myself working 10, 11 hours a day. And most of that was by choice and lack of self-discipline. And while it was a lot of discovery for me in this, it was also just a reminder that those sorts of behaviors aren't sustainable. And to your point, Suzanne, prioritizing health and prioritizing eating food that tastes good and is nourishing, and just kind of like put things in perspective. And I would completely agree, Nicole. I would venture to bet not 10 minutes. And I think I was early enough on that I had the PDF like on my tablet and the book. Like I think there were days I spent more time trying to pull things up on 2 devices and take notes that way. And if I had the workbook, I would have been like slam, like right through this, or more time to think through it. But it really, and there were so many different ways you deliver the information about that. Like there were just light stories that you told and like fun graphics and important things to think about. But then there was also the science. Like I'm that kind of geek that at the end I was going through and reading all the citations and looking things up. So there's as much there as you want to take from it. But if you're really strapped for time, you can do it in a very focused and condensed period each day.
Yeah.
So I think we want to be really mindful of your time and making sure that you get that time for yourself tonight. Before we wrap things up, if you could give advice to someone who was on the fence, what would you tell them? What would be your reason that they should join?
Do it for you. I mean, it'll benefit other people, but I think it gives you some perspective on yourself. And it's a reminder that it's really important to take some time for yourself and learn whatever comes from that reflection and that journey.
I want to share a quote that probably came from Sarah. And it's on my little lesson plan for life cheat sheet that I made myself. It says, it's not about cramming everything into the day. It's about creating intention and balance. And that is worth your time. So try it.
I think there's so many professional developments that we do as educators that I feel don't necessarily apply to what I need to do in the special education world, or it just doesn't fit right with my values. But this is something that if you were to do it, it does align with your values, especially as an educator and just a person in general, of kind of finding those areas and aspects, and you can carry those on and keep continuing on instead of just taking it, putting it in the back folder because you've met your hours or done the things that you need to do. Like this is something that you do continually use, and it's not something that you lose once you're done with it. I think you guys continuing on and still checking in too is so beneficial.
Well, thank you all to our panelists. Thank you so much for your time and for your participation in the Lesson Plan for Life. When Dana and I were creating this, we really started thinking around teachers that we knew and thinking around different situations. And so as we were developing it, we actually built some avatars of like, here's what a busy person in leadership might be going through. And to be honest, I think we needed to go back and add about like 100 more things based on hearing about all of your lives and how busy they are right now, or how busy they were when you took this course. And it's just so impressive just to hear about how impactful it was. And one of the parts that's really resonating with me, which was one of our core goals, was we wanted something that would help teachers and all educators come back to themselves. And in hearing everything that you shared, it seems like because we weren't saying like, this is the value you have to choose, but instead we said, let's explore what your values are. And then, you know, like we got to see some behind the scenes work and learn what some of your values are, but we don't even know them. But it's just so nice to know that you've been able to carry that forward and really both align more to those to make your life more intentional, and also really to see how you can flow throughout the day of, yes, I have to go to work, and how can I find some joy during my day and find some time to celebrate there. So thank you all for sharing your experience. We really, really appreciate it. For everyone who joined us tonight, thank you so much. You truly are the heart of the work that we are doing and that we are constantly striving to do better. We hope that at some point, for anyone who is attending the webinar or who watches the replay, that you remember that you create lesson plans all the time, and that you deserve a plan that includes you. And the lesson plan for life is the structure that will help you to identify that this is your time and how you can build that time in. We certainly hope to see you in a lesson plan for life cohort at some point soon. Again, thank you all to our panelists. Round of applause to them. Thank you, thank you. And to everyone, have a great rest of your day. Thanks.